What's up, everybody? It is Logan from Survivor LU, and I am joined by the production team of Survivor LU Genesis, Derek, Grace, and Lauren. We're excited today just to recap the season as a whole and give some production insights on just what I think, moments of this season and just kind of what we were doing as the season went along. So I'm going to throw it right to Derek. Derek, tell us about the founding of Survivor LU, how it all started, the purpose of kind of our heart behind what we wanted to do with Survivor LU, just that whole kind of the beginning.
Yeah. So the four of us together here had the privilege of playing in a one-day Survivor game that was hosted on Liberty's campus. I was not a student at the time, still not obviously. And we came together and played that, and that was fun. Obviously it was just a one-day thing, but through that, I just had the vision in mind of like something like a semester long game could really work in this setting. We've seen other colleges be very successful with it. And I think the opportunity and the campus of Liberty is awesome. I am fortunate to be the assistant athletic director at Club Sports. So I can kind of have some resources that I could kind of pool in some ways to book certain facilities and sites that I wanted to kind of use. And so I knew it wasn't something I could do on my own. And you three were kind of people that I had maintained some contact with and stayed in touch with after that one-day game. So I kind of just reached out blindly, not really knowing anything, what was going to go on. Like I didn't really have much of a vision in mind of what it was going to be. So we're like, hey, like this would be cool if we did this. Like didn't necessarily expect a response. But obviously from there, like everyone was very interested and it kind of blossomed. When August came around and we were planning to start, like we didn't know how we were going to find a cast. We had no clue what to expect. It could be complete duds. Obviously, from what everyone has seen thus far, like our cast was outstanding. Like they gave us so much, way more than we ever expected. And it was awesome just kind of putting that process together. In terms of like when we were talking through the logistics and everything, we kind of just forecasted a vision of Survivor. And we just really wanted to make a community out of this. And now, seeing season 1 coming to air, and we've now are in the middle of filming season 4. Like it's really cool to see how we've been able to pull together people from all different areas of campus, all different walks of life within Liberty setting, of course, and seeing the friendships that are forming out of it, like is honestly like such a blessing and mind blowing to me. Like I thought it was like, all right, people will play, they'll move on. It was like a one-time deal, but like there's legitimate bonds that have been formed out of this. And it's really just because it's such a unique experience that we've been able to see these bonds be formed. And it's just like, as somebody who put this together, like I feel like very, very blessed by it. I remember at the finale when we finished wrapping season 1, like I'm not an emotional guy at all. Like I don't show any emotion really. Yes, that. But like I was like just like seeing people like coming together from that. Like that was such a cool moment for me. And obviously we've continued on, and it's cool to see just this community grow. So yeah, the point of it at the end of the day is just to bring these people together and create a community, honestly, like a family. Obviously there's going to be certain things that don't work out as well. There's going to be glitches. You don't always have family members that you love as much as others, but like it's still a great family, and that's really ultimately what it's become. So it's really cool to see.
That's awesome. And I will say in the one-day game, for those who don't know, Derek did win, and he did stab me in the back at Final 6. So even through all that adversity, we're still friends. We still somehow put this thing on together. But Grace, dive into what the preparations look like beginning and starting up this club, and just kind of none of us knew what we were doing, but we were going after it. Kind of walk everyone through what the beginning looked like.
Yeah, so I remember one day in May, I got this Facebook Messenger from Derek. At that point, we didn't even have each other's phone numbers. And you guys were all in a group together, and we kind of decided, hey, let's try and make this happen. And so all summer, kind of sporadically, we throw out different ideas of different things. But again, it was all pretty theoretical up to that point. And then when August hit, and it was like the first week of school, I think Derek put a message out there, was like, all right, are you guys actually like, are we actually going to do this? Is this actually going to be something? And we all were like, yeah, let's actually do this. Let's make this a real thing. And so we started meeting in Derek's office. And man, at the beginning, I know we met minimum once a week, but we were probably in his office like 3 to 4 times a week, just trying to figure it out. Since we're working on a college calendar, we only had so many weeks to figure out what we were doing, plan everything, cast people, interview them, and then get the ball rolling, because ideally we wanted to be done before Thanksgiving break, just because we know Thanksgiving break, people start going home, you start having exams, it's a whole thing. And so in that, we had about a 10-week frame that we were like, we need 10 weeks minimum to do everything. And even within that, it's going to be really tight. And so that gave us about 3 weeks on our end to really make something out of a group chat. And so we took a lot of our theoretical plans from the summer. We said our first problem was, how do we get marketing? How do we get the word out that this is even an opportunity? At the time, we weren't an official club yet on Liberty's campus, and so we didn't have any of the normal means. So we went the real ratchet route and just hung a bunch of posters illegally, handed them to any hall leadership we knew, talked about it to people all around us. They all looked at us like we were crazy. We even there's a block party at the beginning of the year for Liberty. That's always a big thing, where clubs normally have a whole area where they can advertise, but it's always gated out, this area. And so we stood right outside the gate where everyone was going to have to enter and shoved flyers in people's hands. Some of them got
people who didn't want them.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't want them. Some of them got dropped on the floor, but I don't even remember which cast member it was, but I know one cast member like picked it up off the floor at the block party. And so it worked one way or another. And so we really were hustling. We were posting on the different Facebook group pages that Liberty has, just trying anything to get the word out there. And I was reading through the messages earlier today, and we were so excited when we got that first application. And we even had to, create that of, okay, what questions do we need to ask? How are we going to do this? And so we started getting 1, 2, they're kind of trickling in. And then we started getting more and more and more. And I think I want to say we got around 35 applicants the first time. I think that would be my estimate, which for us was exciting because we decided we only wanted 16. So if we could just have 16 people apply, we would take them all. So we had options to choose from. That became really exciting. And so then we went into the casting process. We were interviewing people like every single day, anytime we could get there, asking them questions, trying to decide who can we have, what's a good balance, making sure we have enough guys, making sure we have enough girls. That was a whole dilemma in and of itself. And so we would rank people as we go through the casting process in some different areas like athletic ability, entertainment, their knowledge of Survivor, how social they seem, just because we wanted a wide gamut of people within our cast. And then once we kind of had our cast set, we realized, okay, well, we need a theme. We need to do something with this one. And it's a lot harder to build a theme around a cast when you have 35 applicants versus Survivor, where they have their thousands upon thousands of applicants. And so you're sitting in Derek's office one day, and I think we were just trying to brainstorm, writing different things down on the whiteboard. And they're like, we just need a theme. Logan, I think, said something about it's the beginning, it's our first one. And when he said beginning, it just lit something off in my mind. And I said, well, kind of as a joke, I threw this out there. I was like, we can just call it Genesis. It's beginning. Genesis literally means beginning. And I kind of threw it out as a joke, but then Derek and Logan were like, wait, that actually might work. And then from there, we were able to come up with some temptation, like different ideas for themes, like of the advantage that you saw in the very first of the temptation of knowledge, and just rolled it from there. So it was super exciting to kind of, once we had our cast, to build a picture of the theme, to see that, hey, this is actually going to work. It was a cool experience.
Yeah, super cool to see how it all came together. And I mean, we literally spent so much time together, especially at the beginning. Like, I was in Derek's office every single day because I worked at the rink. So I probably spent more time with Derek than I did my then fiance. So, I mean, we literally were just like always together trying to get this done. Lauren, walk us through just kind of what our week looked like, a week in the life of production. And of course, that also is a week in the life of a player as well. But just walk through kind of what just a week would look like.
Yeah, so like Grace said at the beginning, there's a lot of planning. So after we got through those stages of figuring out everything and meeting like almost every day, we generally would meet like once a week on a Wednesday just to discuss like the following challenge and players and everything of that sort, just to get everything set up. And then throughout the week, we would always text players just to remind them to submit their confessionals and just kind of talk to them with their questions and that sort of thing. And then we would tend to go scout out locations and always be brainstorming and messaging throughout the week to make sure everything was prepared for the following tribal council and challenge. And then when Mondays rolled around, which is when we would shoot, we usually got there an hour or two early, just check out the location, test the challenge, set everything up for tribal council, get the cameras right, and then we would film, and then after we'd always have like a debriefing. So there was a lot of time just of planning and making sure everything would go smoothly because we wanted it to be fair and run smooth for the cast. And then a majority of the rest of our time really just went to talking to the players and watching their confessionals. So that way we all had an idea of what was going on throughout the week so we could plan accordingly. So a lot of it was just like keeping in touch with the players to make sure we knew everything that was going on. So it's pretty cool, pretty fun just to look at what's going on from like an outside perspective. But that's mainly how our week went.
The best thing from a week-to-week perspective was is basically we get live feeds. Like we are getting these players submitting confessionals onto OneDrive like every night. Like I would get to a point where I was checking that thing like every hour. Like, all right, has anyone submitted anything new? And I was like on the edge of my seat trying to figure out what was going to happen. And that was
because everything changes so fast. Like 1 minute someone submits something, 10 minutes later they're submitting something else with like a different point of view. So it's so fun to watch every day.
Yeah, I'm just sitting in bed at night, like watching people's confessionals, just like every night, just make it like it's addicting, hearing what they're all saying and stuff. Sweet. But yeah, there's so many logistics going into it, and it was all of our first time. So I think like definitely respect to Real Survivor production for all that they put on. They have a little bit more people, but thankfully we did have some people who helped us film because we couldn't do it all by ourselves. So definitely have to shout those people out. But yeah, just the logistics of doing everything for the first time every single week was something new that we had never done before. So just kind of getting in the rhythm of that was a grind. But now we can just hop into a season recap. So we'll start with week one. Week one, players are coming up. I remember we were in the Tower of Divinity, just waiting there at the bottom and just like kind of giddy, excited. We have all of our mess of crates and chains and all this other stuff. And Derek was huge because he was a full-grown adult, so he actually had supplies and things that we like would have never had as college students. But just sitting there and just the anticipation and the excitement of it. Grace, walk me through just as when you were hosting, kind of what your thought was like, hey, it's finally coming to fruition. It's actually happening.
Yeah, I remember that first day distinctly. I think it's literally the hottest day we've ever had in all Survivor LU history. Was our very first night. It was blistering hot. So it definitely made it feel real, like you were struggling out there outside. But I do remember sitting in the tower, making sure we had all of our supplies before we went out in the field, before the cast got there. And still, even though those like 3 weeks prior, we had spent a lot of time with each other, we still didn't know each other super well. So we were still kind of awkward with each other, still figuring things out. And then we were kind of just like, all right, is this going to work? Is this going to be as awesome as it's been in my mind? And then we go and we set things out and we're like, okay, I think this is going to work. And, we're kind of looking crazy because at that point, no one has heard of us on campus. So they're like, what are these fools with these crates and chains doing on? And so we're setting up everything. And then, the first cast member walks through and we're like, oh, good, they showed up. And then the next person, we see them start talking. We start getting the cameras out. I remember it was a big adjustment the first week when the cameras are out and even on us as host. It just felt super awkward. I was like, this is something I'm not used to. I'm not used to spending Monday nights out on the lawn with chained up baskets and a camera crew. Like, it's just not used to it. But I think in that first night, I think we all left extremely tired and extremely excited. I just remember like jitty the rest of the night because I was like, this worked and it actually looked really cool and it felt awesome. And I feel like these people have bought into it. And then going back to the live feeds that we get, when we got those first few confessionals rolling in, it was It was like a drug. We were like, oh my gosh, people are buying into this. It's not just us. It is now this whole group. And it was just the most thrilling thing to see come together.
For sure.
For me, the minute I knew it was going to work was when we were doing the temptation twist, and our very first person to walk up was Ben Michelson. And Ben Michelson took the twist, and we didn't know. Like, we were like, we could do this thing, and no one might take it, and if no one takes it, we just won't air anything. Like, who cares? But the very first person was Ben, and he took it, and like, all right, like, we're rolling now. Like, this is a game. And even that night one, he went out looking for that idol, and his was definitely the most entertaining confessionals that were submitted. Like, he filmed like the entire 45 minutes he was walking around that bloody lake, and he couldn't find that idol. It was so funny. Like, that to me was the number one reason. Like, we got something here.
Yeah. I mean, none of the players knew what they were getting into. We didn't know what we were getting into. So just to see them like sprinting on the lawn and like going full force and the temptation being taken, it was just like, wow, this is real. This is going to work. This is going to happen. And I remember a little thing that I remembered about the challenge is the night before the challenge, of course, we had the dominoes, and I was thinking about the dominoes, and I was doing the math in my head and realized that if we didn't set the domino to one direction, like if it could be flipped either way, that it was going to be thousands upon thousands of options, and they would have never got it. And we would have been literally sitting there for hours, just been like, crap, we messed up. So that I caught it, and I was like, guys, we have to make sure that the domino can only be set one direction so that it can't be flipped to have more options. So that was just a behind the scenes that I remember we had to work out, and like things like that you would never think of until you're like trying to make sure that everything goes right. But next thing that we really see in week one, of course, Gihon loses after David and Ben take the temptation. We see that Gihon alliance really start, which is an alliance that really dominated through the entire game almost. Lauren, tell us what it was like just to see those first alliances start to form.
Yeah, I was super excited. I wasn't sure because I know like from playing the one day, people are super timid, but they really just went out there and just like went full force into it. So that really excited me because I knew that there would be drama and be something interesting to watch. So I was happy it wasn't, no one was timid, and it was just, I don't know, it was really cool to see because that was like the moment when I knew like it was going to go really well and it was going to be a great season because of those starting alliances.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So then, of course, that week plays out, and we see our big brother legend, David, go home. Derek, you knew David coming into the game. What was it like just to see kind of his story arc and kind of him just not be able to catch steam enough to get himself integrated and sadly be the first one voted out?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say about that is David going home first is enough proof that we did not fix the season at all. Because David was the only person I knew going in, and I see him every day at work. And every bone in my body wanted to be like, dude, you have an idol clue. Like, look for this thing, and you need to play it. I wanted to tell him. Obviously, he didn't even know what it was. So that hurt kind of bad to see my good friend voted off first. But at the same time, like, he's admitted, like, he didn't maintain enough communication. It was pretty clear. He kind of was just ingrained with the minority and didn't really do enough work. So it hurt, but at the same time, it kind of made sense, and you can't really fault them. A lot of times in College Survivor, you see the people who aren't as, willing to put as much effort forth are the ones that can tend to go home first. So, yeah.
So we saw our grad school king go home, but then we go into week two, and one of my favorite challenges that we were lucky enough that Liberty has Camp Hideaway. So we were out on the lake doing a canoeing challenge. Grace, walk us through kind of that challenge and what it was like to just put on something that probably the challenge that resembled most of Real Survivor.
Yeah, I think as soon as this idea for doing a semester-long version of Survivor came about, we were like, we have to use Camp Hideaway, because why would you not use a whole lake that you have access to? And so we got out there, we met with the Camp Hideaway people. They were super gracious to let us use everything. And we really wanted to use all aspects of canoeing and swimming and going in over to the basketball courts, and wanted to use the whole campsite that we could see. And so I think it turned out really fun. We were lucky enough to have the GoPro during that week. to get that shot of Alexa. And like, just like Derek knew David going into it, Alexa was my recruit. She was my friend. And so she texted me that week and she was like, I was at the ER till 4 a.m. last night. And I was like, oh no, we're only in week 2. And we've already sent someone to the hospital and it's my friend. I was like, oh no. She's like, yeah, I thought I had a concussion last night and I went and I definitely do. And I've had concussions before. And so I remember feeling so bad, but also just being like, what an awesome shot. What an awesome challenge.
So lucky that Ben was the one who had it
right
on.
There. Again, gotta love Ben Michelson. Always giving us the content. But I think too, even our contestants really enjoyed it because it kind of pulls you out. I mean, you go to Camp Hideaway sometimes as a student, but you normally go on like a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon. Some of the excitement with Survivor LU is it shakes up life for you on a weeknight. And so, you're in class at 2 p.m. and at 5 p.m. you're out at Camp Hideaway and you're in this reality game and you're going for it and you're canoeing and you're kayaking with people that you just met last week. And it doesn't even matter. You're just you're united over the fact that you want to win. And so I love Camp Hideaway, want to use it as much as we possibly can.
For sure. Derek, tell us, whenever you found out that Alexa had a concussion, were you worried that you were going to be fired and lose your job?
I don't really worry about too much in general in life, but obviously that's not something I wanted to hear. Like, I kind of thought it was a joke at first. Like, no, like, how would somebody get a concussion from that? And then I hadn't at that point watched any of the footage back. And then obviously seeing the GoPro shot, I was like, that's pretty bad. So, sure. I was definitely worried, but thankfully, Alexa was a good sport about it. She was involved, like invested into the game and wanted to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully did.
No doubt. So Alexa takes the L, and so does Gihan in that week. Tigress continues to dominate 2 challenges straight, and at this point, I am getting worried. As like, are we going to just have an absolute runaway? Is this going to be a Palau? Are we going to have this one tribe just absolutely crush it? But of course, something that we did at the beginning of the season as we set out our season-long schedule. So a lot of the contestants thought that, hey, that week 3 double tribal was because Tigress was dominating. And we had that plan the whole entire time. We just needed to get multiple weeks where you had multiple tribal councils so that we could get through, like Grace said, before Thanksgiving. So we had that schedule set before the season even started, and we stuck to that throughout. But Lauren, I don't know if it was you or Derek actually who filmed that confessional, but Luke, we have a great confessional where he is like absolutely pissed at just Tigress's dancing and kind of showboating and stuff. What was it like to kind of see for the first time really kind of people really get competitive and like heated about something in this game?
Yeah, I respect it. I'm the same way. Like whether it's supposed to be a competition or not. I think from an outsider perspective though, like there's things that you want to say, but you can't because obviously it's a game and you can't interfere. So yeah, I feel bad for them. I think that was definitely one of my concerns as well. If Gihan was just gonna lose straight every time. Because I'd be pretty pissed too, like if I were on that losing tribe. So I'm really glad that obviously it turned around itself, but yeah, I would be in the same boat. So just looking on the outside, I just genuinely felt really bad because it wasn't our intention obviously to make the tribes that way, just how the cards fell. So yeah, so I would be in the same position as Luke was, and I'm sure the other members of the tribe felt the same way as well. So
yeah. Derek, walk through kind of how we split the tribes. I know I've heard that some people think Tigress was stacked. Some people think that Gihan really had a lot of athletic ability and it just didn't come through. Walk through how we just set up the teams.
Yeah, Grace kind of mentioned it a little bit, but we did give all of the players ratings in different areas. And again, as much as we can base on a 5-minute interview, like athleticism, social prowess, strategic ability, and we kind of separated them out as best we could with the 2 levels of those being balanced. Again, it is very hard to predict what that will look like in a 5 to 10 minute interview. But that was pretty much how we outlined things for that.
For sure. Yeah. And in that first challenge, if Gihan doesn't have that deficit, they could have made it up. I know that Addie Grace was like 1 away from getting through those locks. So If they don't have that deficit, maybe things turn out differently for that first challenge. So week 2, we see Addie Grace go home, sadly. Super entertaining. One of the most funny people to watch her confessionals. Grace, we saw at the very end of that episode where you're going to snuff her torch and she blows it out instead. What was going through your head when that happened? Because I was absolutely shocked.
Addie Grace, what are you doing? I know you're only the second person to be voted out, but you saw me snuff David's torch last week. And I'm pretty sure she would never claim to be a super fan, but I'm pretty sure she's like, yeah, I've watched this growing up. So I'm like, what are you doing? I'm standing right here with the snuffer. But again, it was a funny moment. It just showed her personality, if that's kind of who she was.
Yeah, happy birthday to Addie Grace for that episode. Maybe that should have been the title. So Addie Grace goes home. Week 3, we have the double tribal. So both tribes are going to tribal council. And I can confidently say the worst challenge of Survivor LU Genesis happened this week. We're not proud of it. It just didn't turn out. We should have used maybe a different utensil. So that challenge went like that. We have our 2 winners, Alexa and Megan. Then we have the idol finds, or the idol clue finds. So Alexa finds theirs. Derek walked through Garrett's blunder after that challenge when we tell him to go pick up the Tigress board.
Yeah. So both of the tribes had left their boards down there, and we're like, we'd seen Alexa pick hers up, and we're like, someone needs to get this clue for the Tigers tribe. It's sitting there. And so we're like, I think you was like, hey guys, someone go bring us your poster so we can keep it. We didn't want to have to make them keep it in their dorm rooms. And so Garrett walks over and picks it up, and I'm really glad we got the shot of it. It's not a perfect shot, but somebody got him walking there, picking up, and literally walking over top of the clue, not having any awareness at all that's there. And I mean, to his credit, he's not seen the show at all, but it is very, very comical that he walked right over it.
It was a perfect Garrett moment, but we did see Nicole actually go back. So behind the scenes, Nicole went back to every single challenge pretty much at that beginning, and she was checking where the challenge happened for just idols. And she happens upon that first idol clue. Lauren walked through kind of just the satisfaction for us of, hey, someone finally found an idol. Nicole finds it. It like our perfect hiding spot that we found. I think it was you, me, and Grace. We went to the Eternal Flame and found this perfect little circle and hid it in. Talk about the satisfaction of just kind of that the first idol find in Survivor LU.
Well, it was funny because when she went back to that challenge to look for the clue, I was walking to my car, so we ran into each other. So it was cool to like see her like 30 minutes later walk back and go get it. But when we were hiding that idol, we were like literally going through every crevice, every possible crack to find the perfect spot. And I wasn't like, I was thinking like no one would find it just because like people wouldn't think that hard to go to these locations, whatever. So it was really satisfying, like knowing like that we took so much time to hide it and it was like in the perfect location. She was able to find it. So I thought that was a really cool moment because we spent so much time on it.
No doubt. Yeah. Grace, so we finally get in week 3, probably our first really drama-filled moment. We have the controversy of the tower talk with Tigress, Nate, MJ, Ellie really going after it. That whole misunderstanding, people covering up lies. What was it like to watch that for the first time for yourself?
It's always fun to see when players start to lie in the game. That's a sign that they're starting to take this seriously. And so, Gihan, right off the bat, we saw the deception with David and Ben. Tigress was just having kumbaya over there. They were having happy camp life, and that wasn't what we wanted. And so it was exciting by week 3 that, like, I think they all kind of woke up to the game, and they were like, oh, man, we signed up for a game where we have to vote off people, and I'm going to have to vote off these people. And so it's always exciting to see the lies start to happen because that's where strategy plays in.
Yeah, and of course, as production, we're seeing like poor Nate being really hung out to dry by his tribe. He was in the pretty much in the right there. He was definitely being manipulative in some things that he was doing. And of course, we don't have, I don't know what happened to the footage. They it was on their end that they didn't get the footage of him, Sam, MJ, and Megan talking when that first conversation happened. Conveniently, it disappeared. I don't know if it was who it was, but just to see that first really kind of like people were outwardly confronting each other. And kudos to Nate. We talked about it in our LRG and my deep dive with him. He absolutely played that correctly, really stepping back, being humble, and letting people kind of walk over him so that he would slide back into the shadow. And we see in that week the downfall of Sam Jenkins, our Survivor LU villain. Derek, walk through just with a character like Sam, what it means to lose him in a game like this.
Yeah, I think I actually had drafted Sam on my fantasy team, I remember. And I drafted him because I was very hopeful that he would be, he wanted to be a Russell Hantz. He wanted to play the game very hard. And like Sam just has a very intense demeanor. And I think, when you go into that first, tribal council, it's kind of hard to have something to go off of. Certainly they could have voted for Nate. But I think that Sam's just kind of his dominating presence and his just, how intense he wanted to take the game and how serious he was about it. Like, it's just kind of hard to put aside. Who knows what would have happened if Sam was still in the game at that point? Maybe things would have gotten mixed up a little bit, but it definitely hurt to lose Sam that early for sure.
Yeah. So Sam had to go home. I think he went home and was flying back. He literally got back like 30 minutes before tribal council. Of course, we get the great Dawson confessional, welcome home, as he writes his name down. Absolutely brutal. But we see Sam go home and then Megan on the other side. And we really see in this week kind of the alliance that's going to form. Like, they've been solid this whole time, but this is kind of the crowning moment where Megan tries her hardest to get them to flip on each other or to vote out Luke or whatever it might be. And that 5 sticks strong. And we see that 5 really just dominate throughout the game until the end. They don't fall for Megan's fake, but Luke does put a vote on Ben, which will come back definitely to bite him, as Ben is very wary later on in the game of who Luke is and his trust for him. But then we go into week 4, our food challenge episode, and we have to give props to Lauren as she was really the cook in the kitchen back there. As me and Grace were putting on that challenge, she was mixing things up, putting things on plates. Lauren, thank you. Just walk us through that experience for you.
Yeah, well, when I went to go buy the materials, I was just literally going down every single aisle with my roommate. And like, we were just picking out, trying to find the grossest things, which I think it worked. Because when I was putting all the food together, like when I came back to my room, I could just smell it all over my clothes, all over my body. And it was a mess, but it was so worth it to get their reactions. And that's always my favorite challenge on the actual show. So I was excited to be able to come up with some fun concoctions for that.
Yeah. And then, of course, we see one of the most epic moments of the season, and definitely up to that point, was Luke finding those clues. Big props to our one of our camera women, Elizabeth, who was there and got that shot of Luke on the side of the table. Grace, as we go through that challenge, I don't remember seeing him take the first ones. I don't know if you do, but just afterwards, just the kind of the shock of, he didn't take just the one for his tribe. He took all of them. What was that like?
Yeah, I remember in our planning meetings, we're like, okay, we want to get an idol clue out there again. And so more people have an opportunity. We've split into the 3 tribes now. And so we want every tribe to have a clue out there. And obviously one of the idols was already found by Nicole, but we were just going to put one out there. Whoever was stuck on that tribe, sorry. And so we did a little piece of color on each of the notes, put them under the table, and we said, all right, well, just make sure that the person from the Gihon, Tigress, and the 3rd tribe, I can't even remember the 3rd tribe's name. Sean, if they're all staying in this order. And we told them, we came up with lie. Well, it's not even totally a lie. We said, hey, we need you to stand in this order each time because it'll be easy for filming purposes for knowing which tribe, which is true. But really, we said that too was for the idol clues. And what we thought would happen is one person would notice it, grab it, and the other two people up there with them would notice it and grab theirs. Obviously, not what happened. Where I was standing on the side of the table, I didn't see Luke grab the first one. So I didn't realize, and we had been trying to watch, but I was kind of grabbing stuff from Lauren as she was getting it. And so I wasn't always paying super close attention. I just remember when we realized after the fact what had happened, we all went, oh my gosh, can he? Yeah, we didn't even think about that, the possibility that someone would just snipe them all. And of course, lucky for Luke, Ben being next to him, Ben, our sweet Ben, who is just the most oblivious person, he's able to grab right down there and snatch it. Ben doesn't even blink. And so we were like, well, I guess just Luke has it. And I think it goes into one of the most fantastic plays, when they go and find the idols for that week.
Yeah, and I remember, so Luke grabs his idol, so Tigress, and he grabs the one in front of Ben. And at the end, he just comes back. And I remember being on that side of the table looking at him, and he just comes up and like looks at me and grabs it and just walks away. No one sees him, I don't think. And it's just incredible. Something that I kind of skipped over that I want to come back to, the tribe swap, Derek. Of course, it's completely at random. We have it to where it's going to be, we have Tyrus taking and then Gihan taking, but we didn't know how the tribes were going to be split up. Tell us what you were thinking when you saw that split.
Yeah, so there's very few things as production that we're not aware of. Usually even going into tribal council, we know who's going to go home for the most part.
Yeah.
So there's probably in this season, just 3 things that we didn't really know. Like we obviously don't know the rock draw is going to happen. We didn't really know what all the fake idol shenanigans with Ben was going to happen. And then obviously this with the tribe swap. When the tribes were formed, it was kind of like looking around like, sweet, this is a good breakdown. We got 2 tribes with, 2 pairs and then a 3-1. And then the 3-1 that ended up winning the challenge, which was like, yes, this is awesome. Like for a dramatic, episode and a dramatic show, like this is what we want to see. Yeah. Like you go head to head. We had no clue what was going to happen. And that was like exciting. Even within the, the Pishon tribe, like had they lost, there's a chance that, Ben's not going home there. So there, that would have even been interesting. So that like, it was complete luck and, everything was random. It's not fixed, but that was like the breakdowns were it was really perfect from a narrative perspective.
Yeah. I remember we got those breakdowns or whatever. And then I think you came up to me, Derek, and I think you had heard from Pishon that maybe even like you said, Ben was going to be safe. Nay and Elliot absolutely hated each other at that point. They were not fans of each other. So literally the perfect breakdown that we could have asked for. So of course, we see an incredible play. Luke and Liz get up at like 5 a.m, 5:30, something like that, and are going after it, getting idols. They find that first Pishon idol. They go back to where Ben had that clue for the lake. Liz finds the lake idol. They decide to share it, and they get a 5-5 even split. I really don't think we could have, asked for a better kind of result from a tribe swap. You go in with this huge deficit into a merge of Tigress versus Gihan. It could have been where it was down to 3 Gihan and 7 Tigress. And you could have kind of said, hey, Tigress, y'all are washed. But really, we come into with a 5-5 split. We go into week 5, and the unthinkable happens. In a first season of Survivor on a campus, these people willingly go to rocks. Willingly go to rocks for people they can't stand. Grace, as we watched confessionals throughout the week, I know I was in disbelief. What were you thinking when you were like, hey, it might actually go to rocks?
When I realized that we might actually go to rocks, I was like, this is insane. Especially with what you're saying, Logan, is like, they were going to rocks for people they didn't really like. It wasn't like their favorite person, their best friend, someone crush on. Like, they didn't really like Nate. Nate was towards the bottom of their tribe, but they knew that number was so important. They knew that if they lost just that 1 week, that could really dictate where they were for the rest of the time. And so the fact that they were willing to fight for it, we knew before that point, but just from production standpoint, I remember our chat just blowing up all week long. Like, these people are crazy, but they're so into it, and I love it. I think it's so awesome. And so when we got there, there still was a small chance that someone could flip, really that Ellie could flip, that she would take that pitch up that Alexa gave her and that she would flip. And then when we go to rock draws and it's Ellie who draws the rock, we're like, oh my gosh, this story, man, it looks like we're rigging it from last week with the tribe swaps and the idol finds and the clues and everything to this week with the one girl who was given the big pitch to take the flip, pulls the rock. I think we were just ecstatic because we're like, man, we couldn't even think of such a good storyline.
Yeah. Derek, like Grace said, the story of it all is just like almost unbelievable. What were you thinking as it went down?
Yeah. So within the episode, I did kind of hide some things. Like Ellie going into that tribal was pretty certain she wasn't going to flip. Obviously, we didn't know with all the whispering. We don't really know what they're even saying in those whisperings, so we don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, again, like narratively, like I knew when she drew the rock that entire episode was going to hinge around her. It did hurt to lose Ellie. Like she was a great player. She was fun and exciting and very into it. But yeah, like her drawing the rock, there really couldn't have been a better person. No offense to her, that from a story perspective, like we could have lost, Nicole could have gone home with an idol in her pocket. We could have lost. Yeah. There are a lot of big players that we could have lost in that moment. But Ellie pulling that rock was, from a story perspective, perfect.
Yeah. Lauren, Derek said it. A big player goes home that week in Ellie. An awesome character, just personality-wise, kind of what she brought to the table, just her desire to be loyal and things like that. And it was getting to that point where we had known them for a while. Talk about how what it felt like to like really start to get to know these people and to make these relationships with them from production to cast side, but then also see them go out and kind of see their reactions.
Yeah, I think that was the best part, was being able to form those friendships. Although it was kind of hard because we had to limit communication with the cast. But like after the season, I still talk to like over half of them. Like I was actually talking to Ellie last week and she was still reminiscing on how mad she was about the rock draw. So I just think it's super cool just to still maintain those friendships and like learn so much about them, like in both ways of like the lying and deceiving and also just like their character. And especially the big players, I think it's really cool because like some of their personalities are reflected in the game and some like they put on a facade just to beat the others. So I think it's just such a cool experience just to learn more about others and just create those friendships.
Sure. So that week, I think definitely what we've seen back and talking to Dawson and things like that, we saw two things that 5 on Gihan were solid completely. They were not going to flip on each other at that point. We saw Dawson really working to make sure that he's like, hey, I'm safe. I'm going to make sure that people go to rocks because I know that this is best for my game. I know if we can get a better rock draw than what they did get, that he would have been in a better position. So everyone there was playing as hard as they could. So it was fun to watch. Then we go into week 6, which we see as a big turning point for our biggest player, probably up to this point, being Luke. We drop a hint or a clue in the middle of the challenge, and we just are an all-out sprint over to catch all the footage that we could, hopefully catch someone finding the idol. Grace, I know that you and me had a great perspective on a near idol find for Luke. Walk through as you were down below and I was up top. What were you seeing kind of as he was searching right where it was?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember we dropped that clue at the beginning of the challenge. And we're like, well, people get this. We don't think it's too obscure. But we didn't know that if they would go and look at it right away. And so we kind of slowly packed up to see what would happen. And I'm kind of following some people out. I think it was Dawson and a few other people they all live in the same dorm. We're walking back to their dorm, but they heard noise and they looked around and they saw behind them that the rest of the cast was running to the tower. They kind of looked at each other and were like, oh, I guess we're doing this. And they turn and start running towards the tower. And at this point, it's totally dark out, but everyone is trying their hardest. And if I remember correctly, we end up being at the tower till about 12 at night once curfew hits. And so we're there past midnight filming and catching everything. But like you said, Logan, I'm standing there following Luke. We weren't trying to just stay right by where the aisle was because we didn't want to make it too obvious with where we were filming. So we were scattered everywhere. We were following people wherever they went. But of course, when I saw Luke getting close to it, I was like, oh, I'm just following Luke to follow Luke. And so I'm standing probably 10 feet away from Luke. You can actually see me in the background of the film when he checks the one end of the bench. And he checks there's another bench actually in front of it. And the one in front of it, he checks both sides. And it's not there. So then he comes to this one. And I knew that Luke had drawn a target on his back at that point. I knew that he was obvious. He was a very vocal person, kind of the leader of his tribe, athletic. And so I just knew that he definitely had a target on his back. And as you're saying, by the merge at this point, these people have become our friends too. I mean, we do have somewhat of a wall because we want to stay as unbiased as we possibly can, but you watch their videos and stuff and you feel like you really know them. And so I'm standing there filming Luke and I'm like, okay, he's just checked both sides of that bench. He's about to find his idol. He checks that one side of the bench and there was something that had actually been there. So he said that he saw like a piece of tape. It wasn't ours. I don't know what it was that he was messing with. And so when he saw that, he's like, I think someone got the idol. And so then he gets up from the bench and walks past it. And I'm standing there waiting for him, though, to go look on the other side. And I want to scream at him at that point because I think he's fun. I think he's awesome to watch. I'm like, Luke, what are you doing? I'm like, the other side. I've just watched you turn over 50 rocks. Why would you not check the two sides of one bench? And so it's definitely one of those parts as production where you're just doing everything to keep your face as neutral as possible, but you are literally screaming on the inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so an pretty amazing kind of idol scramble. No one ends up finding it that day, but it was just super rewarding just to kind of see the madness and the chaos of it all. And I remember, I know me and Derek were there. At the end of it, we were just sitting around and it was like Lauren said, just being able to build the relationship with the cast. We were just talking about Survivor, like the real Survivor. We were just talking about everyone's opinions and talking about different seasons. And me and Derek realized that really all these people have terrible opinions of Survivor and they have terrible taste. They think Boston Rob is a good player, all this other stuff. But just being able to do that was super fun and exciting. And then I would say we had our first vote where it was really, there was multiple ways that players could have went. Derek, I would love for you, just from a strategic standpoint, to talk about what you thought of this vote, the MJ and Nate side, that they could have went either way. It really was a crux on that Gihon alliance with Luke and Nathan and Ben. Ben wanted to go one way, Luke wanted to go another. Nathan was kind of stuck in the middle. Talk about this from a strategic perspective, from your opinion, what you think was best and how do you think kind of the ramifications of it all?
Yeah. So this, we definitely started seeing the two tribes started to mix a little bit. You had the potential of a freshman alliance, which would have been really cool. And I think that kind of started just because, they got along really well. They had common interests. That was like a very organically forming potential for some. Obviously it didn't happen. And then you have Nate, and credit to Nate, kind of scrambling on the other side, knowing that he could be in trouble. He just came off a tribal council where he got 5 votes. Trying to pull together the people he perceived to be as not the ones in power and the ones in control, and kind of formed that other 5-person alliance. And so I do credit Nate in that week. He definitely he pulled some strings to save himself. He definitely had help. But yeah, it was cool to see. Like we kind of thought, all right, Gihon just got the numbers. They may just easily pick off the 4. It's going to be boring. It's not going to be fun. But like, in that week, I was actually surprised how much strategy actually went on, whether to decide, did they vote Nate off, which was what they were going with before, or like, do they take MJ, who like, yeah, you might be aligned with her, but she's also a very, very good social player. Like she's one of the most likable people in the game. So yeah, it was interesting to see the two different options they could choose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lauren, I would love for you to talk into, of course, we see MJ go. We start having a jury form. What was it like just to have that kind of peanut gallery at tribal council now starting to get bigger and bigger?
I think that was such a fun part because they all, like, even if they didn't vote with each other or weren't huge fans of each other, they all bonded over like the one thing that they got backstabbed and voted out. So it was really funny when they would come into tribal council and they had like a Hawaiian themed day. And then one day they brought like pirates booty for popcorn. So they had fun with it, which was really cool to watch, that they were still friends even after voting in separate ways. Because I know for me, I probably would be pretty bitter, but I was really happy to see that they were still able to create that community even after being voted out together.
Definitely. So MJ goes. We go into week 7, and we have another idol find. We are pretty much like, hey, Dawson's done and dusted. In that challenge, he calls himself out. I didn't see it. I don't know if anyone else did. He barely touches the ground, which in that challenge we say if any part of your body touches the ground, you're out. He reaches down to stretch, touches the ground, and calls himself out. What an upstanding guy. But we think he's done. And Grace, we of course, as we talked about so many times, we're refreshing our phones and we find out that Dawson finds the idol after searching for a while. What was it like just kind of see in real time just those changes as in the game?
It was so exciting when we found out that Dawson had found the idol, because we were fans of Dawson. How can you not love Dawson? He's one of the most likable guys you'll meet in or out of the game, just in life in general. And so when he found it, we're like, all right, a Gihan might go home now, and this might shake it up even more. Things might get crazy here, especially because he held the card so closely to his chest that he had found it. And so that was super exciting to watch fold out, especially when he pulled it out and then blindsided Luke, the week prior had the opportunity to go in this foursome, but it didn't make it happen. And Dawson was just upset about it. And so, I think that was a brilliant move to see such a big target taken out in such a blindside. Otherwise, I think Luke could have gone a lot farther.
Yeah. Derek, talk into just Luke as a character and as a player, what it was like to have him on the season. Such a big personality, a great leader, and he made some of the biggest moves of that season. What it's like to have him on the season, and then also, of course, what it's like to lose such a big character, plus someone who's absolutely smashing just confessionals and getting us footage literally nonstop.
Yeah, no, Luke was awesome to have. I didn't have the privilege of being, in his interview, and you guys kind of raved about him. You're like, this Luke guy, he's going to take this really serious. I'm like, okay, cool. We'll see what he does. But right off the get go, he was going for it. That one scene where he was going through the supermarket and going through getting his hair cut, like he edited that entire thing himself. Like he put all that together. That was not me at all. So like seeing things like that, I love as an editor to see people upload stuff that's just like completely random and has nothing to do with Survivor, but it's just like all character moments. And Luke had quite a bit of those that, he almost was, he wanted to play like game like Tony. Well, he didn't say he wanted to play like game like Tony, but he really, in the way he played as aggressively it was and looking for idols, like, super entertaining. Obviously it is hard to win in that kind of fashion when you're playing so hard and everyone's very, very aware of that. But yeah, Luke was awesome to have and a huge part of the season.
Losing a character like Luke was super disappointing. But of course, like in the way that he went out, it was, of course, an awesome way with the Dawson idol play. And I think it's just we just got so lucky with the cast that we were able to put together. Characters like Dawson, characters like Luke, Ben, all these wild people, Addie Grace at the beginning, all these wild people that we were just so lucky to be able to cast. We really did nothing except put out flyers and hand out flyers and stuff. But somehow they were attracted to this and they put on an absolute show. A character like Luke, he never took a day off. He was going absolutely 100% every single step of the way. So we just have to give him props for just the way that he put everything out there. Then, of course, we lose Luke. We go into our next week and we have a kind of controversial challenge with the Superlative challenge. Grace, walk through us just coming up with that challenge and kind of what our desire was with that challenge as production. and then just the ramifications of it all.
Yeah, so when we were creating that challenge, we were saying, all right, people are getting close to the end now. We want them to have enough time to realize the true feelings of their other castmates, that they could potentially make a move, so that they might have a better bid in the final three, but also just to cause drama, just to see what would happen. And so it was super fun to sit through and think of some of the different questions. I mean, Real Survivor has done different versions of this game. Reality shows have done different versions of this game. We said this is an easy one that we can take. I mean, to the best of our ability, we model all of our challenges off after one Survivor app does itself. Obviously, we have limitations. There was 4 of us doing this and a budget of maybe $100 on a college campus and liability issues. And so this was one we were like, all right, we can do this, and this could actually probably cause a lot of drama. We tried to not have too many ones that were personal. I know we got some hate about the Nate, who would you least likely want to be stranded with an island on? But I mean, even that could show things, could realize that, hey, your social game's not doing that great. You got to step it up. And of course, we added in the element of the slingshot. We didn't think it'd be that hard, but it ended up being pretty hard for people. But that way, just anyone could have a chance. So it wasn't totally based off of just votes, because if it was voting, there's probably a lot of ties that could happen. I think it was an interesting week that definitely caused a real fun tribal council. It was really fun even that week watching the jury's reaction, because I mean, they didn't know that had happened the week prior. And so hearing the different votes and things that people got voted for, I think it definitely set a lot of people, their wheels spinning in their mind of what they needed to do from there on out.
Yeah, for sure. Derek, walk through what it was like just to kind of, I mean, of course, we have our own perceptions of what the players are like, but we know kind of, we're omnipotent. We know everything, or not omnipotent, omniscient. We know everything that's going on. What is it like to kind of get a glimpse into the perception of each player as well and see where their head is at in the game?
Yeah, for sure. I think, that's a challenge where, people are made very aware of things that, they may be seeing, they may be doing fine. Like you look at Liz, who, thinks that she's got a great chance, with what she's done in the game so far. Like she takes credit for the idol that she found and played. And her strategy is to keep that hidden. And so, but by keeping it hidden, people, don't think you're doing much in the game and might think that you're a goat. So it is cool to kind of see, different things and how people may want to adapt and change their game based off, those perceptions of your tribe mates. If someone thinks that you're a threat, then you may need to scale back what you're doing. If someone thinks you're not doing enough, then you need to pick things up. So it is a way that you can kind of shake the game up. We didn't really need to shake the game up. I think, things were going in an exciting direction, but it kind of just adds a little salt into the soup. So.
For sure. Yeah. So we had a pretty straightforward week, honestly. With Dawson being the one who does go home. Lauren, we do lose another big character in Dawson. Talk about what it was like to have him on the season, and then also sadly see him go.
Yeah, Dawson was so funny. I loved him on the season. I remember one moment after a vote, he was like freaking out and he like peed his pants a little, and he's like, Lauren, like, come videotape me. And so he's like walking the water fountain, like trying to hide it. It was just such a funny moment. So he's definitely a character on and off the camera. So it's really sad to see him go, just because like you always get a laugh out of Dawson. But I'm glad that he did make his mark on the show. And we still see him around, so it's still cool every time we see him. There's always something funny he does.
For sure. So we lose Dawson, but we go into a week where there's literally, I think, like endless possibilities of where we could go from here. We're sitting with only 2 Tigers members, Nate and Nicole. And then we still have Liz, Ben, Alexa, and Nathan. And I think from my perspective, I'm just sitting there like, where is this going to go from here? Is it still going to stay 4 strong? But we start seeing a lot where Ben becomes more and more of a target. We have one of what was one of my favorite challenges, the OTEV on the ice challenge. Derek, tell us kind of, you said at the beginning, kind of how we get access to the ice rink and just kind of the heart behind that challenge of OTEV.
Yeah, we knew before the season started, we want to incorporate the ice rink for something. There's a lot of, different things we could have pursued. We could have had them on skates, but that might not necessarily be fair. But also the OTEP challenge is a fun one because it's really testing. It does have a lot of physicality in it, but it also tests their awareness of the game and how much they've been paying attention. Little subtle things that you had said during challenges, and seeing if they're picking up on that kind of stuff. And there is a lot of luck. Like there's a ton of luck in that challenge. You just gotta, if you don't find the right piece, you don't. But so I think it really meshes together a lot of things. But yeah, incorporating the rink was something we wanted to do from the start. It's one of the, facilities I ever see. And so that was exciting to get that in there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Grace, so we have this week and we start and we see kind of Ben's mind the gears start to roll, and he starts coming up with this idea of a fake idol. And he had been really there was, I don't know what episode it was, pre-merge, where he said in comment to Megan, I might make a fake idol myself one day. Great foreshadowing there. And he starts doing that, and he comes up with this incredible plan. And not only does he make this fake idol, but he pulls off something that was absolutely unbelievable. Sitting there at tribal council, knowing kind of his plan coming in, did you think he was going to pull it off? Did you think he was going to be able to slide through that week?
I was not sure if Ben was going to be able to pull it off because obviously we knew everything. So from my perspective, I'm like, this is so obviously a fake. There are so many opportunities before this that Ben could have played it. But when Ben pulls it out and he has this whole speech, like he says in the episode, that he practiced for 30 minutes in his dorm room. He pulls it out and you can't see it on the camera. You can't see it on the film, but he pulls out of his bag and his hand is just violently shaking. His whole body is. And I'm sitting there watching him and his speech makes sense, but his body language is giving him away. I'm like, this man is lying. And I'm like, Ben, I really want this to work for you. Because again, you've been a character from day one for us. You're so fun, but I don't think it's going to work for you. And then it does. And so I remember that's one of the few moments as a host that I truly was shocked at what was happening. The idea that it's a fake doesn't even get thrown out there. These people don't even think, he's showing it before the votes when you only need to show it after. But he has that whole theory of, I want it to be Alexa, not Nate, and that's why I'm showing it now. And really, he had built up that level of trust. And like he said, one of my favorite lines, that deception is a tool. And if you overuse it, it's not going to be worth anything. But he really had played up to that point. Sans week 1, where he takes the curse, he blows it off completely that it wasn't him. At that point he was a pastoral leadership major. You'd thrown out the Bible verse. He's like, I'm all Mr. Honest. Totally wasn't. But after that, he played as honest as he possibly could, building up to that moment. He had kept that clue that whole time, even though he could never find the idol. So it was a legit clue. So when he's able to pull that out as a backup, some people had heard rumors of what the clue had been. They knew it was kind of by the library water. They're like, it all makes sense. And when it's in your face at that moment in tribal council, you don't think that fast. You don't think, this is probably a fake. And obviously he's had that from the temptation. And so I think it is probably one of the coolest moments that we see in Survivor LU history of Ben pulling that off and convincing them, saying, this is real. And then saying, I'm going to play it, doesn't play it. And it leads us off into this next week of, is that going to buy him another week of safety? Are they continuing to believe it? And so it's really awesome what $15 at Hobby Lobby can do for you.
Absolutely incredible. Yeah, I've said it, best move in Survivor history to this point. It's going to take a lot to top it. And another thing that I talked about in the LRG is that Ben says the clue, and he says what it is. And that is the exact same clue that Liz received to find her idol. So Ben tells Liz, we have a clip in the episode, he tells Liz, hey, this is what it says. And she says, like, awesome, that's so impressive, dude. So Liz could have called him out and said, I found that idol already. How did you find it? But it completely, I guess, slips her mind or something. I don't know. But Derek, walk through just this move strategically from everyone else's perspective. We hear from Nate, hey, Nate is trying to get all the votes still put on Ben, but really that the other three, Liz, Nathan, and Alexa. Talk about that from their perspective of why not to put the votes on him and stuff like that, if there even is reason to do that.
Yeah. And I think there's a few people you need to credit. Obviously, Ben, up to that point, to their knowledge, hadn't said a lie to anybody. He had really done work, and he had done work on both sides. I think that's the biggest difference. Like Nathan, Liz, and Alexa were very Gihan strong. We're sticking with this, whereas Ben had done the work on both sides. We've shown his alliance with Nicole. So I think that that made both sides trust him, and that you have a Nate and a Nicole going to them, be like, guys, you need to vote Ben. Like they assumed it to be real. Force this idol out. Okay, Alexa goes home, but like we need, like everyone pretty much bought it. There were some talks like, hey, this is fake. If you show an idol before the vote, it's fake. But I think Ben, his story is he said it the way he would talk. Like I cut out probably, at least 10 to 15 minutes of him explaining like his whole game and every single vote. He explained every single vote and how he was considering potentially using that idol. So I think with that story, with him taking the knowledge, of just like everyone was shocked. But I do credit Alexa as well. Like if you believe the idol is real, like Alexa needs to get those votes somewhere else. And we need to look at why we'll get Ben another week. If that thing is real and he's actually playing it and I'm the one going home, then I can't be voting. So I do like, that is a move for Alexa. Obviously it ends up being the wrong move, but if you're in her situation, like, and you have a 50% chance of going home, you need to push the votes elsewhere.
No doubt. Yeah. So with the information that she had, she made the right call and definitely did the right thing in that time. Lauren, let's talk about, as production, what it was like to just kind of watch history kind of be made in the moment.
Yeah, that was the best part. And it was so rewarding because I knew like we had such a big part in that. And just the cast in of itself couldn't have been any better for making history, because there were so many moments, like you said, Logan, that like cannot be topped. So it's just really exciting just to see that happen. And hopefully, as Survivor LU continues to grow, we have more seasons that history can continue to be made. So I'm just really excited and thankful I was a part of the first season in making history at Liberty with Survivor.
No doubt. So we are all caught up to where we are currently in the show. Before we get off, I would love, Grace, for you as the current host of Survivor LU, continuing on with seasons 2, 3, and 4, where you guys are now, just your hope and vision for the continued growth of Survivor LU, and just kind of what it has been like to continue on building that community and putting on these games.
So there's a few different ways that I kind of envision Survivor growing since season 1. I mean, some ways we've already been able to see. There's on our home front on Liberty's campus, how I like seeing it growing. One, our name is being recognized more and more. Like I said, we do crazy stuff on campus on like a random Monday or Tuesday night. We're running around. Just this last week, people were running around doing something crazy in one of the student buildings. And as we're running around with cameras and everything, people that are just sitting there, we hear them explaining to their neighbor what this is and what we're doing and everything. And just that alone is exciting to hear that our name is becoming more recognized. We're trying to become an official club on campus, so maybe we can pass out flyers in a way that's slightly less illegal. Even though I think a big thing is when we did season 1, it really was us 4 right here. We had our 2 camera people that helped us sometimes when they could, not always, just depended on their schedule, which was fair. It was really just us 4. And now we're manning a team of roughly, I would say about 15 people each night that aren't in the current season, that are from past seasons, that have stayed on to help, that really just, again, it all goes back to community here for us. That's our number one vision, is the cultivation of community. And so seeing people become real life friends, seeing them have connections that go deeper than just one semester is the greatest thing that we can have for this game. Outside of our campus, though, gaining recognition within the college Survivor world, even just the press that we've gotten for season 1, honestly has surprised me. I know the name Liberty University can carry with it certain connotations. And I hope through this show that we can show a lot of people that, hey, we're just a bunch of people who really like Survivor too, and we also enjoy running around doing weird things on Monday nights. And so just growing a bigger field there, even the amount of views that we've had on this season has really blown us out of the water. And it's been a huge blessing. And so just to be able to continue that, we've even had some people come up to Liberty for different events. We had one family who the parents are both online students, and their sons, they've all been watching, and they visited campus, and, they saw Ben on campus and got so excited. And so Ben was able to send them a little video, make their day, just small things like that. Like at the end of the day, we're just college students for the most part, just going about our normal lives. So if we can make anyone's day a little bit brighter by simple things like filming this, that really means a lot for us.
No doubt. It's been super awesome just to be able to see the hard work that we put in come to fruition. So we just want to thank everyone, all the viewers for watching, for tuning in every Thursday, watching. Want to thank Live Reality Games, Dustin over there, and Dom for hosting us and being able to get our name out there to another, not just in the LU bubble, but being able to get our names out there in the College Survivor and Live Reality Game bubble. Just a blessing it has been, like Grace said, just to see it grow, to see communities built. Hopefully we'll have maybe a Survivor LU married couple. We'll have our first Boston Rob and Amber. So we'll wait for that to happen. But it's been super awesome. I want to thank all the viewers for your support. The finale is just coming up 1 week away, April 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Do not miss it. See the epic, just the bow on top of the present for this season, Survivor LU Genesis, where we will crown the first ever sole survivor of Survivor LU. Thanks again for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed just this kind of production insight and recap of the season. Definitely tune in next week, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.